glad that you are here. I am so excited because we are going to talk about self-awareness and leadership today with a really just all-around amazing human. And I'm very excited that she's here. And what is even more amazing is she's an Enneagram 5. And if you are new to the Enneagram, it is a personality framework that helps us understand why we do what we do. And our guest today works with leaders like I do, but in a way that is just so special and unique about building teams. So her name is Tianna Tye, and she's the founder of the Leader Circle and the premier leadership and team dynamics consultant. Like, you can't get anybody better. And she helps CEOs build high-performing teams so they can scale their big business and really, this is the best part, reclaim their zone of genius. So they're not doing all this stuff. And she uses all kinds of amazing research as a background, in her background as an organizational psychologist. Y'all, I think I need more coffee. I haven't done enough words this morning. But she really helps CEOs work through hiring, team dynamics, and what it means to lead in a virtual and in-person space. So I am so excited about Tianna coming on. And so I'm just going to bring her on and say good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you are here. And as we continue to drink our coffee and tea and other good things that you've got going on, so say hello and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. So I feel like you kind of gave the spiel wonderfully, by the way, even with minimal caffeine.
Wonderful. Need some more.
But a lot of times the only thing I'll add to that is I get the big deer in headlights whenever the conversation around industrial-organizational psychology comes up. Now, I know you're my LinkedIn family, so perhaps you're a little bit more familiar with what that particular expertise looks like. But simply put, study human behavior as it applies to the workplace. And so my educational and professional background really dug incredibly deep into human behavior in the virtual workplace, which obviously, given the events of the last few years, has come in handy to understand some of the nuanced differences between, keeping a team engaged and motivated whenever they used to be in person, but now we're in some sort of hybrid model or whatnot. So it's just been an incredible time, incredibly hard, but also incredible at the same time. And beyond that, I am a Atlanta, not native. I'm an Oklahoma native, which a lot of people don't know.
Oh.
In fact, was born in Enid, Oklahoma for those.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, who are familiar. Currently reside in Atlanta, expecting my first human being that I am actively growing right here, right now. So this is all just a fun experience and I'm here for it.
Yes, that's like the ultimate multitasking, growing lungs and living a life.
I saw the best TikTok the other day and it's like, well, what did you do today? I just grew some organs. How about I was like, yes, thank you.
Yes, I have. Having grown multiple sets of organs for other people, well done.
Bravo.
Oh, I love it. So if you are here live, please ask your questions. Let us know in the comments that you're here live. If you're catching the replay, we can come back and answer questions. So feel free to drop them in the comments as well, wherever they are. It depends on if you're on your phone or wherever they go. So we're just so glad. We're going to dive in a little bit about what do you see as this organizational psychologist? So you're looking at the dynamics of a group of people. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the role of individual self-awareness in that group of people?
Man, it is perhaps the most important part, in my opinion. So I utilize a framework, I call it the leadership quartet, but the first tenet of the leadership quartet is lead yourself. Because from my experience, from my vantage point, we have to think, okay, even in the realm of a romantic relationship or a more personal relationship, there's a lot of conflict. And I'm sure you can speak to this, Jen. There's a ton of conflict that arises when we can't communicate who we are and what we need from someone else, right?
Yes.
So we expect someone to not even be able to read our minds, because to some extent, without that self-awareness, y'all can read my mind all day, but I don't know what's going on either. I'm just here for the ride too. And so even when we translate that into the professional space and with our teams and the people that we're managing and our colleagues and the people we're interacting with, if we don't have a good, solid working understanding of who we are, how we show up currently, how we desire to show up, and if we're not able to articulate that to other people, it really puts us at a disadvantage for good, powerful teamwork. I can go on, but I think the starting point, like it is number one. I know. So I work with clients across the board from hiring all the way up into, no, I have the team of 20, 30, 40. We're talking team culture now, right? Like we're talking organizational culture. But even with my clients who only come to me for hiring, you're going to love this. The gift that I tend to send out is a book on Enneagram, because I'm like, you've made your first hire. Let's start this work in case you haven't started before.
Exactly. It's so good. And I love the way that you just have that tenet, because I have 6 business pillars, and one of them is I lead myself before anyone else.
There we go.
And that's what I want to include in my speaking work and with my clients, because we can't expect to lead others if we haven't figured self-leadership out. And not like I got it all figured out, but at least we're in the practice of working on understanding I have to control me and understand myself. And the way that I love to describe it is about Velcro strips. If I don't know which side my Velcro strip is, how can I connect to you? I'm always going to be like, well, I don't quite know. And that's the beauty of the Enneagram and other tools, that we start to have a language for self-awareness. Because sometimes we're like, it's all fuzzy in there, but then we have a language that starts to make the inner world outer to others. And that's what's so powerful. So I so appreciate you coming on as an Enneagram 5. So if you're new to the Enneagram, don't you worry. There are 9 different types, and they're labeled by numbers. And we're doing a series. So I've done 1, I've done a 2, now we're at 5. We're not going in order, but it's fine. It's totally fine. And so I would love to hear you just describe what you think the biggest gift of the Enneagram 5 is. Like, what's the thing that you bring to the table that is unique to that personality trait?
I love this question. Okay. I think probably something that I would absolutely consider a gift. First of all, let me just say, I love the fact that you asked it and framed it that way, because usually we're talking about the dark side of it.
I know. I can't help it. As an Enneagram 7, we have to start there.
The happy, give me the good. Okay.
We'll go deep. Don't you worry. But we're just going to start with the goodness.
I think one of the characteristics that I found, and actually it's really common across a lot of different personality assessments and dimensions that I've been, measured for, is my objectivity. My ability to, very much something that I'm very proud of and very grateful for, is I am the person, when I say like, oh, I can put myself in your shoes, like empathy, compassion, understanding the nuance of someone's situation without having had to live it myself, is probably my superpower. I think that it translates really well from a leadership perspective, because I am able to take such an objective point of view and really kind of like mental games, right? So in my mind, I'm like, oh, what if I was this person? And then I can get it and actually get it. It really helps avoid some of the conflict and confusion and headbutting when it comes to those interpersonal relationships. And for a long time, I had no idea that this was a superpower. I was just out here getting along with everybody. And everybody's like, why are you?
It's so fine.
Like, why are you always the one who, this woman butts heads with everybody in the office. Why doesn't she butt heads with you? And it's like, not only can I understand where she's coming from, but I can almost speak the language, because I can take that impartial, my feelings aren't hurt, I don't take many things personally sort of stance to things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so good. And I think it's like you said, as a leader, that helps you connect with other people. And leadership is all about relationships. So if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, oh, this might be why they're responding, not about me. That objectivity that protects you helps you work it out in a way that feels so much more peaceful and smooth, rather than we have to go through the drama of doing it. Although sometimes that's necessary, but it doesn't, for some personality types, like ours, that doesn't feel necessary. And so like being able to, and even the way that you described it as a thought process,
Yes,
like that I think is so indicative of the five.
it is.
And so one of the big things about Enneagram Fives is they're the thinkers. Like you observe the objectivity, the thinking aspect of I'm going to logic my way through this puzzle of another person. And it doesn't necessarily mean I got to get my feelings hurt about it. Is a superpower. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
So, as we said, we do sometimes need to understand about the hard parts of us, because one of my other business pillars is that we have to be generously self-compassionate and ruthlessly self-honest. And when we put those two things together with some curiosity, then we can grow. So you've given us this great thing about you. What do you find that you trip over a lot? Like, what's that thing that you challenges you? And then how do you manage that?
The answer is easy and immediate. It is so, and I've heard this described. I actually went, for those who are very into Enneagram, I actually went to a conference led by Suzanne Stabile.
Oh, me too.
Okay, love her, godmother of the Enneagram. Okay,
Absolutely.
So I went to a conference by her, and I loved the way that she described fives with the, what's the word, pedometer, gas meter? That, okay. When she described it in that way, the way we literally wake up in the morning with a gas tank, some days it's 95% full, some days it's 50% full. And then
but it's never 100.
Pretty much never 100. Like I can count on my fingers how many times it's been 100. But the downside to that, like, I mean, it's great to be aware of your energy and the capacity you have. However, the downside to that is every little thing that comes up, even when you open your phone and look at your calendar, you are kind of taking stock of how much it's going to drain you, versus almost, I feel like it's kind of a pessimistic approach to kind of like looking at stuff versus like, oh, this is going to fill me up. It's like, no, I'm looking at my gas tank and I'm like, we have 5 calls today. Then we have to do this. Then we have to do this. And then I need to go be a spouse to my partner. Oh, I'm going to be exhausted by the end of the day. And where that really, I do think it's like the dark side of the fives, where that really truly does impact leadership is I will just call it, keep it 100. I'll be super transparent.
I would expect nothing less from you, Tianna.
When I think about human beings and my relationships with human beings, it is more of an energy draw, especially with my natural introversion. I'm not shy. That's not introversion, for those who need like the reminder there. Not shy at all. However, going out and being public and speaking to a lot of people and the crowds and the conferences and the audience is definitely energetically draining. And so it can feel like a lot, like every team member that you hire, every new person that you decide can be a part of this group program that you're doing, every new client that you sign on to serve, you're taking stock of how that's going to impact your gas tank. And it can be kind of a dark side because it can be very self-limiting, is something that I've been working on.
I love that you're aware of that. And I'm curious a little bit about, does the idea of I'm going to look at this and I can see where my energy is going to drain, does that activity of even observing drain your energy just a little bit?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah. So it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not that, but it is a cycle that you have to be aware of, because there's a component of that where you do need to manage your energy. You can't suddenly wake up and be like, I'm doing 10 calls today, one every half hour, and expect to be a functioning person at a party that night. That's not going to happen.
Oh, no.
So, it's not going to happen. So you have to have that observation and look, but you also can't obsess over it. Otherwise, that's just even more draining. It becomes a cycle.
I have found, for me personally, being aware of that and being accepting, because a part of it is just like, this is almost, I don't like the excuse of this is who I am and how I am. However, to some extent, there's reason in that, right? And so for me, being accepting of that and aware of it at the very least has taught me to put different boundaries in place, for example.
Oh, good. Say more.
So, with friends, they understand if it's like after 9 p.m., probably don't call Tianna unless it's an emergency. You know what I mean? Different things like that. And with business, the boundaries are even stricter. You know what I mean? I am not the entrepreneur who is go, 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 burn myself out. I'm the entrepreneur who it's like, it's 5 o'clock. If I respond after 5 o'clock, it's because I just kind of felt like it. It's not promised. My clients don't expect it. No one expects responses from me in 15 minutes. That's not me. Those are not the expectations and boundaries that I have set, right? And so it's become more possible for me to be excited about and accept more because I do have different boundaries and practices in place that will at least protect the energy that I am choosing to spend. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. And what I want to highlight about that is the idea of boundaries and clarifying that. Like, you're not just, your clients expect this because you've said these things.
Oh, yeah.
That's a part of your communication. And if we don't, back to that very first question, if you don't know that's who you are, you then can't communicate clearly. And, to quote Brene Brown, clear is kind, and so that clarity is so, so important. And, I also just want to underline too, that it's not, oh, this is how I am. I really appreciated that you brought that out. Yeah. Suzanne Stabile again says, it's the way you see. You can't do anything with the way that you see, but you have to manage with what you see. And so if you know that, you can do so much with it. And I think as a leader, lots of people expect leaders to be a certain way. And I like to call a 5 leadership style the professor, because there's such an observation and this institutional knowledge that often comes with that. Yeah. But it's not necessarily, although, again, you're not shy and you are dynamic. It's not me. You don't have confetti in your purse.
No, I do not.
That's not the way we do things. And those things are both fine. And like, we need the different leadership styles to function and help us see that round table of everybody has a perspective that is welcome at the table.
Oh, absolutely. How boring would this world be if all of us were exactly the same?
Totally. Well, to come back to the beginning, when you are, growing a human, and you just tapped into a little bit of that 8 energy, I think. That healthy 8, about you just did a project in a day and a half about the expecting CEO. I was watching it. I'm like, I think I took a nap and Tianna started a new company.
That is kind of what happened. A friend of mine said, this is the most entrepreneur-y thing I have ever witnessed. And I said, yes, it is. But
so tell us.
In a nutshell, well, the expecting CEO is the baby before the baby, right? And so honestly, it came from a place of darkness. So for those of you who can relate, as a business owner and as a relatively new business owner, I consider anything less than 5 years new. You know what I'm saying? And so as a new business owner, having the complexities of, okay, I'm doing this new literal creation thing for the first time, but I've also created this whole company and I have the goals and I'm trying to scale it and blah, 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 all of the things. The mind conversation that starts to happen went really quick. Very, again, with the Enneagram 5 playing a part of that, very energetic, I'm very limited. There's no way I have the capacity to take on a new responsibility, and on and on and on. And so that really birthed me feeling the need to reach out to my community, because I was like, at the very least, I know I have a community of somebody who has been here before and can help me make some sense of what's going on up here. So to make a long story short, it started these beautiful conversations with other women who had done it before, were about to start trying to conceive, and were like me, actively, growing the human. And that just very quickly, yes, it was like a day and a half, basically, very quickly transformed into an entire community. And now I'm getting used to saying company in and of itself. And so that's been interesting. Talk about boundaries. I still will be going on full maternity leave. We've got a whole plan in place, but it's been a beautiful thing that has culminated in this beautiful affirmation deck for pregnant CEOs. And very proud of it, very excited. We've got some fun people that are about to get interviewed on the Expecting CEO podcast, so stay tuned for that.
I love it. I do not want to be a guest on the Expecting CEO.
Many people don't. It's not for
I
everyone.
know. I mean, I love my babies, but my oldest is 19 and my youngest is 12, and the factory is closed for us. So I wish I would have had the expecting CEO affirmation cards as I was trying to lead a department as a pregnant person. So I really love that you're doing that. And I think, in my faith right now, it's Advent. And so in the time of Advent, it starts with two pregnant women basically discussing the kingdom. And I just love that image of Advent. And so just to share that as part of people running the show who are growing people are still really amazing. And they have slightly different needs for a little bit. And it's really powerful. So I'm
literally sitting on one of those bouncy balls right now. So there's that.
Good times. I just looked at the time, so we're over a little bit. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody go check out The Expecting CEO, or you can just go to tiannatye.com. If you are interested in Tianna's services, she does amazing work with teams, and so you should check her out as well. Any parting words that you would like to share with our friends?
I would just like to reiterate the fact that it all begins with you. It all begins with an understanding of yourself. So wherever you are in this journey, just don't forget that piece, because unfortunately, but also fortunately, life is dynamic, and the journey of understanding yourself as a leader literally will never end. So there's always some fun stuff to do.
Absolutely. So good. I love that. Love that ending. I'm also going to put in the comments, if you would like more information about leadership layers, it's the free resource that I have that gives you how to put things together when you've taken the Myers-Briggs and you've done Colby and you've got the Enneagram. How does it all fit together? So I've got that for you, and you can plug in your own data and start to see some patterns for yourself. So it kind of ties right into what Tianna is saying. So I will drop that in the comments in just a moment. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Tianna, for your time. I so appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.